And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is going to be a quick review of Zabar and Mission. So Mission and Zabar are kind of the left and right hands of each other, and so they're going to have uniques that work within each other, which is kind of cool. The company's basically saying these guys are kind of like the Chirrut and Bays of kind of the new characters for the Old Republic, that they can kind of go in the back lineup of any lineup, but would work really, really well with some of the newer, Han Solo characters like the, Kira and things like that. Or it can work well with Darth Vader lead because these guys do dots, damage over time, which is pretty cool. First off, I want to say the graphics looks pretty amazing. The artwork on his sword, the rendering and all of that is really good. And then, of course, here we go. Mission looks great, except for she looks like she's happy to see me. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, guys. All right. So anyway, Mission and Zabar. We're going to talk about them really quick, go through their kits, and then we're going to do a quick arena of battle, and I'll give you my thoughts and impressions. They're pretty simple, you guys. Basically, they have a basic and a special. That's it. A basic and a special. They have a couple of uniques that are working in the background, but they got two abilities. They're basically going to be using a basic or a special. Same thing with Mission, basic and special. So it makes their kits pretty simple, and you can figure out whether you're wanting to use the basic or special pretty easily. So these aren't overly complex. They do a lot of damage over time, and it works really well with Darth Vader. The only issue is Darth Vader even viable in arena? The answer to that, I'm going to do a spoiler alert. No, they're not. Okay, so they will be really, really good in other areas of the game, though, and so let's go ahead and talk about that. So their design philosophy kind of on making these two characters together to work well together was to kind of mimic what they did in KOTOR. Mission was a skill monkey and Zabar was a meat shield. He was a tank. The desirable qualities of these is he's got a reactive taunt. He can kind of get stacking defense, and Mission now brings in a new debuff called Blind, which is kind of like a reverse foresight. Basically, Blind works on any ability that it says this attack can't. It works on any ability except where it says this attack can't be evaded. So what that means is if it says it can't be evaded, then obviously it can't be evaded. And if the individual is stunned, even with the character having blind, they're still going to land it because the character that's stunned is stunned. But all in all, the blind is really cool because you can put it on them and then they're going to miss the next time that they go. So pretty cool. Territory Wars, they're going to work decent, either, like I said, with, Kira and those characters relatively recently having come out, or you could put them in with like Vader and Wampa. They'd probably be more, better suited for an offense team with Vader and Wampa. That works better on offense. And in territory battles, they're just kind of a plug and play attacker and tank, kind of similar to Chirrut and Bays. As far as the raids, I mean, you could use them in any of the raids. They'll do okay. But in Phase 4, for Traya solo, when Traya's there, you can use Zalbar's Armor Shred because he brings that in. And that Armor Shred is actually now the second one, which will allow you to keep Sabine in for Phase 2 and use her Armor Shred in Phase 2. So pretty cool. So really, there's a lot of options with these characters, but let's go ahead and go through with Zabar. So Stalwart Ally, it just deals physical damage and inflicts 2 damage over time on enemies, and he recovers health. So he puts down dots on his basic, and he recovers health. Power Blast, he deals physical damage to all enemies and gains taunt for 3 turns, and on a critical hit, it inflicts Armor Shred. He gets to use this taunt, by the way, every 3 turns, and it lasts for 3 turns. That's super rare. Most tanks, they'll taunt for 2 turns. Every 3 turns, they get to use it, or like they'll taunt for 3, but they only get to use it every 4 turns. What I'm trying to say is the taunts fall off a turn before they can reuse their taunt again, and not his. This is kind of cool. So that way he can kind of always have taunt up as far as that goes. Now it says on a critical hit, he inflicts Armor Shred on a target enemy for the rest of the battle. That is good because Armor Shred, a solid debuff that is probably pretty underutilized, but it's really good when you're talking about the raids. That's where it's really going to come into play. So he does an AoE and taunt. Now don't expect Power Blast to be powerful because it is an AoE and it's a taunt. It's really his taunt, and then his basic's going to do the damage and the dots. And then he has a unique called Wookiee Toughness. This is just an Omega. All three of these have been Omegas, and he'll gain 20% defense stacking every time he takes damage from an attack for 1 turn. So as he's sitting there being a meat shield, just getting hit, every time he gets hit, he's going to get another 20% defense stacking. So it makes it harder and harder and harder and harder to kill him for that turn while you're trying to target him down. So that's kind of a cool unique. It's just kind of playing in the background. And then his other one, this is the one unique that works with mission. It's called Mission's Guard, and this is a Zeta. If you go all the way to the end, it does become a Zeta. And it says Zabar has plus 25% critical avoidance. That's pretty cool. And he shares that with Mission if she's here as well. So they each get critical avoidance. What's cool about that is you don't have to mod for critical avoidance now. If you don't want to, you can use those the arrows for speed. But if you wanted to go critical avoidance, you could get it really, really high now on those 2 characters if that was a desire of yours. It says whenever another ally falls below 100% health, and that's any of them, he gains taunt and retribution for 2 turns. So not only can he use his taunt every 3 turns for 3 turns, but if any ally drops below that 100% health, he's going to taunt and have retribution. So that's really cool. They're going to try and focus fire, and he's going to keep swacking them back. And every time he swacks back on his basic, he does damage over time. So pretty cool. At the start of each of his turns, Zabar in Mission recovers 10% protection for each damage over time effect on enemies. Now, I don't know about you, but think about the Heroic AAT or another raid like that where you can stack debuffs such as Darth Vader and Wampa in, the Heroic AAT. And this is a lot of protection, and his basic recovers health. So this makes him extremely durable, and I would love to be able to test him in the Heroic AAT. I think that would be kind of fun. It's a little day late dollar short. We don't really need him for that, but maybe it'll be a fun team to run regardless. But I just like the fact that anytime somebody else is getting hurt, he taunts, has retribution. He just basically heals himself up more and ends up doing more damage over time. So pretty basic kit, he taunts and he hits with damage over time. Now Mission has Don't Blink, and it deals physical damage to a target enemy with a 70% chance to inflict daze for 2 turns, and she gains turn meter if the target enemy was debuffed. So the turn meter gain's not huge. It really isn't. See, 10% sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, and it's not even guaranteed. They have to be debuffed, and that may or may not be the case. And the 70% chance to inflict daze is a little bit low, in my opinion. I think it should just be inflicts daze for 2 turns. Because it's not guaranteed, it still has to pass a potency and tenacity check, but that's okay. Daze is a really, really cool debuff. Daze is one of my favorite debuffs out there in the game, and Daze is really needed for territory battles because of all of the retribution. The characters that retaliate and stuff, you want to be able to daze them. So she's going to be great as another dazing character because we already have a few that do daze. We've got an Ewok that does daze, and we've got Captain Han Solo, and we've got Zeb. And so there's a number of characters that'll do that daze, but just having more characters that do daze is solid. So a basic that does daze, and the basic can do a decent amount of damage. And then her special, and she can do this every 3 turns as well, similar to his special. And it just says it dispels debuffs on herself, and she gains turn meter and stealth. So she's going to cleanse herself off, speed herself up, and go stealth, so she's not going to be able to be targeted. And it says Mission and Zabar will gain protection up for 3 turns, protection up 50% for 2 turns, and then she inflicts blind. This is actually a really simple but very cool kit. Basically, she cleanses herself, makes herself to where she can't be a target, speeds herself up, gives herself protection back, Zabar protection back, and whoever she was targeting gets blind, which means the next time they go, they miss on their attack, unless it was a can't be evaded type attack. So simple but pretty cool. Again, this is just an Omega, so you don't really need to worry about the Zetas on either of these. Now, just like him, she has a couple of uniques. This one's going to be, she has 80% potency. This unique's pretty good, and inflicts damage over time on target enemies for 2 turns when she uses an ability. That's any ability, which can't be evaded. So she's going to be inflicting damage over times, and she gives herself a ton of potency to ensure that she passes that potency and tenacity check, so she gets that daze on basic, although it is only 70% of the time. It says when an enemy resists, Mission gains 20% potency stacking until she inflicts a damage over time effect. So she's just going to continue to get more potent and more potent, and those damage over times are inevitably going to happen underneath her. So this just is small, but just basically guarantees that she's going to be more potent as the battle goes on. In Arena, it will be less important of a unique, but in any other raids, that will be more important. Now, those first three were all Omegas. This is her Zeta that she has, just like he had a Zeta, she has one. And this is me and Big Z forever. And I really don't see the Zeta benefit, but you guys will get to decide for yourself. So Mission has plus 50% offense, and he also gets the bonus as well. So they're sharing these stats. He's giving crit avoidance, she's giving offense, and so they're both getting offense and crit avoidance as long as the two are together. And it says once per turn, this is that Zeta part, once per turn, Mission assists with Zabar when Zabar uses an ability. So whenever he uses any ability, she'll use an ability, her basic, and that's once per turn, so she's not going to do it a ton, because if he keeps getting hit and has retribution, she could possibly end up countering a million times too. So it says once per turn, and I think that that's reasonable. It also says when Zabar takes damage from an attack and he is a meat shield, she will gain offense 10% stacking for 2 turns, and then when Mission deals damage to an enemy, he's going to recover health. So she's another way of him recovering health and protection, which is pretty cool. And he is a way, as he's a meat shield, taking the damage at getting her to hit harder and harder. So you're probably wondering about mods. Pretty much for him, he's a tank, so you're going to want like defense. I would do defense mod sets. He doesn't need to be fast, and so I would just go all in on protection, triangle, protection, arrow, protection, cross, protection plus defense mods. And then for her, I would do a crit chance and crit damage set, and then I would do a speed arrow, critical damage triangle. You can either do an offense plus, or you could do I did tenacity, but it was just really for the speed because they're slow, and then of course protection or health down here, but preferably protection. Let's look at their stats really quick. As a tank, 120,000 is good. It's actually very solid, but all the highest end tanks now can get to that with all the Gear 12 pieces. I was able to add, ridiculous speed on a tank, but he is pretty slow, as is most tanks. But being able to add a lot of that defense was good. Really just that, like I said, the protection is about all you're going to want to do because he is a meat shield. His physical critical chance is actually around 30%, 31% right off the gate, and he has decent physical damage. So, I mean, he's not going to hit for a ton, but for a tank, it's okay. And his armor is really, really high. It's almost 40% without any other mods. And if you were to put mods in and really focus on defense, you could very easily get that actually to 50% armor, which is really good. And so he's a solid tank, doesn't do a ton of damage, but he's really there for the damage over time and the just constant, health and protection regen. And then for Mission, her stats are, for an attacker, pretty good, 60,000, 62,000. And her speed was around 130 speed, or 134 speed, something like that. And so it's right at about average for speed for an attacker. And so you're going to definitely want to get some speed secondaries on her to get her over that 200 speed for any of the raids to be effective. Her potency, I didn't add any potency because she already gives herself plus 80% potency on a unique, so she's already at 120%, so you don't need any there. And then I've added some tenacity, but that's really unnecessary. Her physical damage is real easy to get over 3,000 for an attacker, which is good. And then the physical critical chance, again, very easy to get up very high. So she's going to consistently crit, which is kind of the whole point with an attacker. So now that you know both of their crits, how to mod them and all that, let's go do a battle in Arena. Okay, now I'm sure I could use any combination, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun on this battle before I end this video. And so Darth Vader lead, of course, right, because of the dots. Both of them are going to do dots as well. Zalbar and Mission are going to do dots, and then Wampa. And then I'm just putting General Kenobi in for the crit hit immunity to kind of give everybody durability, because I don't want to lose Darth Vader like right out the get. And he's a second taunt, and so 2 taunts should be pretty good. Darth Vader does good damage, Wampa does good damage, and then we're hoping Mission does some decent damage in Arena. All right, now I'm going against the team that I showcased yesterday, which is the 4 droids, all light side with Jedi Training Rey, and I figured I'd show you how the new droid is on defense, and this is a bit disturbing. I haven't taken a turn, and I'm totally and completely debuffed, and everyone basically has foresight. I got a couple droids I might be able to get some days on. Only got it on 1. And the countering is disturbing. So she's got her basic and special. The basic is going to daze, and she's going to get a little superficial turn meter, 10%. And then, of course, we also have her special. So these are, like I said, very simple kits. And this one, she's going to dispel debuffs on herself and gain stealth. So because she's all debuffed up and stuff, I want her to get that stealth. Also, she will inflict blind, which means this target is going to miss their next attack. So, I mean, it's pretty good. Plus, she's going to give protection up to herself and Zalbar. So there you go. You got protection up on Zalbar, protection up on her, and it put this blind over here. It's like a little eyeball with an X, and it says it will miss the next attack. So pretty cool. All right, and then we've got a taunt, which we can get up with Zalbar, and he will get that retribution and stuff. So let's go ahead and attack with that. Why not? Boom. And he armor shredded, and that's kind of a big deal. The armor shred. We want to, you know, use that on the tanks to try and get through them. And let's see if we can't get daze, because, you know, L3 counters all the time. Bam, got daze, but it was like immediately cleansed off. Interesting. Okay. Put some damage over time. These dots should stay up because, oh man, they're already at Illuminated Destiny. Yikes. And L3 still taunting. This is rough. Not sure Darth Vader has a place in this. And Wampa, man, what's going on with you, Wampa? And I don't know why the dots are disappearing off of these characters. With Darth Vader lead, this should never happen. So all the dots that have gone up should stay up. Bam. Applied another dot and applied daze, and it just disappeared. So once again, I'm testing, and this is the opportunity for me to make a video for the game and showcase these amazing characters, and sadly there is some definitive issues with these characters. So I'm guessing when these characters get fixed in a week or so that they're probably going to be decent, but it's really hard for me to make a video showcasing amazing characters when even the most basic abilities such as the damage over times are disappearing. I mean, look at that. The only one that it's sticking to is R2-D2. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up. There's no point in trying to showcase a character or characters when there is bugs in the game, and I don't have much time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Sorry, you guys. I hope that you enjoy the kit and the characters. My overall impression is let Capital Games fix the bugs, and then let's free-to-play farm these guys in about 3 months, and we'll use them in the Heroic AAT for fun and not in Arena. And if you guys have any other ideas you think that it would be better suited to be played with, then leave them in the comments down below. But these are all basically just filler characters, and will be probably almost guaranteed needed for Darth Malak, so make sure that you have them on your radar for farming them free to play when they hit the board somewhere. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior, out.